For exposing my parents' secrets when they crawled back begging for money 12 years later? I was at my desk reviewing investment portfolios, like any Tuesday morning, when my cell phone lit up with an unknown number. I usually let it go to voicemail because spam calls never seem to end these days. But something made me answer. I do not know if it was intuition or simple coincidence. What I do know is that that call was going to turn my world upside down. Hello. I answered, keeping my eyes on the numbers on the screen. The office was quiet. You could barely hear the hum of the air conditioning and in the distance, the typing of some coworkers. I had my door closed like almost always. I like to work without interruptions. Rachel. The voice on the other end sounded uncertain, and at the same time familiar in a way that tied my stomach into a knot. It is me. It is your mom, Diane. My fingers froze over the keyboard. 12 years. 12 years since I had heard that voice. 12 years since I had spoken with any of them. My mom Diane, my dad Richard, or my sister Madison, whom everyone called Maddie. 12 years building my life far away from their toxic favoritism, far from that house where I was always the one who had to understand. I swallowed hard. I looked at the closed door as if that could protect me. What do you want? It came out harsher than I planned. But honestly, maybe it had to come out that way. I felt my free hand clench into a fist on the desk. There was a pause. A long breath, as if she were preparing for what was coming. Your dad is very sick, Rachel. The doctors say that he does not have much time left. We want you to come. To make peace. To say goodbye. I stared at a modern painting on the wall of my office. One that I had bought last year just because I could. The silence between us stretched like a rubber band about to snap. Outside, the city continued as usual. People walking, cars passing by, life going on. But inside my office, time stood completely still. I will think about it, I finally said. And I hung up before she could continue. Before she could try to blame me, manipulate me, or whatever she had prepared. I stayed there with my coffee getting cold on the side, feeling the memories crashing down on me even though I had buried them for years. It was as if a dam had broken. And suddenly I was remembering everything. Every slight, every betrayal, every time they chose Maddie over me. I was always the responsible one. The independent one. I had to be. Since Maddie was born barely 2 years after me, it was crystal clear who the favorite was. On every birthday, every Christmas, every random day it was the same. Maddie got to show off new toys, pretty clothes, the biggest slice of cake. I received used items, practical gifts, and the usual speech. You are the older sister, Rachel. You have to set the example. In 3rd grade, when Maddie wanted my new colored pencils, Diane forced me to share them. You know how your sister is. She is very sensitive, she would say, while Maddie smiled behind my back, as if she knew she always won. When one day Maddie threw my favorite book into the small pool in the backyard because she had a tantrum and it got completely soaked, Richard just shrugged his shoulders. It was an accident, he said. And to cheer her up, he bought her an ice cream. A teacher I loved very much had given me that book. I used to read it in secret, with a small flashlight under the covers. No one bought me another one. No one cared. When Maddie got good grades, they had a gathering, dessert, photos. Just look at how smart our girl is, Diane would say, showing her off. I stayed in a corner with my perfect grades that were the standard. When I did well, they barely nodded. Well, that is what we expect from you, Rachel. You are the oldest. You have to set the example. I learned quickly that if I wanted something, I had to get it myself. When I was 16, I started working after school at a local coffee shop. One of those small places where professionals came for their morning coffee and pastries. The manager's name was Jennifer. And, without exaggerating, she was more of a mom to me in many ways than Diane ever was. Jennifer taught me how to save, how to be consistent, how to stand up for myself. She told me things straight but with affection. If you are going to dream big, sweetie, you have to be disciplined. And you also have to learn to set boundaries, she would repeat to me while we counted the register at closing. I saved every penny, every tip, dreaming of the day I would leave that house. What really opened my eyes to the depth of the favoritism was the cell phone incident. I had saved for months to buy myself a simple smartphone. It cost me around $300, which was a fortune to me at the time. I bought it dollar by dollar with my hard-earned cash from the coffee shop. The day I brought it home, Maddie went crazy. "I want one too," she shrieked, reaching out to grab it from me. I clutched it to my chest. "No," I said firmly. "I bought it with my own money. Give it to me." "You are so selfish," she yelled. "If you want one, save up," I replied. "Get a job like me." Diane appeared from the kitchen as if summoned. Richard came out of the study. Both had that alarmed look they only wore when Maddie complained. "What is going on?" Richard asked, looking serious, staring at me as if I were the guilty one. "Rachel does not want to give it to me," Maddie whined, with tears that I already knew by heart. Diane looked at me with automatic disappointment. "Rachel, behave yourself. Your sister just wants to see it." "It is mine," I said, feeling my voice tremble with anger. "I bought it. I worked for it. I paid for it." "You should love your sister," Diane blurted out, as if that were the ultimate argument. "How can you be so harsh? We raised you better." I looked at them. I truly looked at them. And something settled inside me like a cold click. That was not normal. That was not fair. That was not love. "I do love her," I said softly with a lump in my throat. "But that does not mean I have to give her everything I have." I went to my room and locked the door, ignoring their yelling and Maddie's fake sobs, which I knew would turn into demands at any moment. That night I sat at the old computer I had and started looking for universities a few hours away. My heart was beating fast, as if I were finally breathing. I opened a new document and typed, "Admission application." When the acceptance letter arrived, I remember it like it was yesterday. I was 18, fresh out of high school. My hands were sweating when I opened the envelope. It was for a finance program at the University of Texas at Austin. They had given me a partial scholarship. I was at the coffee shop during my shift, and Jennifer saw my face before I said anything. "Well?" she asked me, almost in a whisper. "I got accepted," I said, first breathless and then louder, as if I needed to hear it myself. "I got accepted." Jennifer hugged me right there, surrounded by the smell of coffee and cinnamon. "I never doubted it, sweetie," she told me. "You are made for this." The scholarship helped, but a lot was still missing. Doing the math between enrollment, part of the tuition, and the initial cost to get started, I was short around $25,000. And I naively thought, it is fine. There is Grandpa's money. My grandfather Edward had left an inheritance. It was not for luxuries. He said it very clearly while he was alive, in front of Diane and Richard. "That money is for my 2 granddaughters' education," he told them. "Make sure they both study." I was there. I heard him. That day I went back home with the letter in my hand, feeling hopeful, truly hopeful, as if maybe, just maybe, this achievement would change something, as if they would finally see me. I found them in the living room. Diane and Richard were watching television. Maddie was lying on the couch, texting without looking up. "I got accepted," I announced, showing the letter, "to the University of Texas at Austin. And I got a partial scholarship." Diane lowered the television volume. Richard adjusted himself on the couch. Maddie did not even turn around. "Oh, how nice," Diane said. But there was something in her tone that gave me a bad feeling. "But Austin is really far, right?" "It is the program I want," I explained quickly. "And with Grandpa's money I can cover the rest." "About that," Richard interrupted me, clearing his throat. "We need to talk about that." I felt the floor sink beneath me. "What?" I asked. Diane smoothed her skirt, as if she were nervous. "We do not have that money anymore," she said, as if she were talking about running out of bread. I lost my breath. "What do you mean we do not?" My voice came out high-pitched. "That money was for our education. For both of us." Richard let out a weird little laugh, as if he were uncomfortable. "We had to make some decisions," Diane said. "Opportunities came up, things for the house, expenses." "And Maddie's money?" I asked, although deep down I already knew the answer. I could see it on their faces. "Do not worry about your sister," Richard said. "She is going to be fine." My face got hot. "Did you spend my share?" I said slowly. "Did you spend what Grandpa left for me?" "Rachel, do not exaggerate," Diane blurted out. "You always know how to figure things out. You will find a way." I looked at her. I looked at the expensive earrings, the shiny necklace. I looked at the new golf clubs leaning in a corner. I looked at Maddie in brand-name clothes with the newest phone, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. You are telling me, I said, trying to control the trembling in my voice, that you spent my education money on yourselves. On things. Watch your tone, Richard warned me. No, I said, unable to hold back anymore. I am not going to watch my tone. This is wrong. This is very wrong. Go to your room, Diane yelled. No, I replied with angry tears. Grandpa wanted both of us to study. Both of us. Diane stood up abruptly. Get out of here, she spat. When you learn to speak with respect, you can come back. I slammed the door on my way out. I drove as best as I could, crying, and showed up for my shift at the coffee shop like a ghost. Jennifer saw me, but she did not press me. She just offered me a glass of water, squeezed my shoulder and let me work. The next day I had the morning shift. I made coffee, served breakfast, smiled on autopilot, while my mind raced, trying to figure out what I was going to do to go to Austin without the money. That same day, late in the afternoon, I went back home. I put the key in and it would not turn. I tried again. Nothing. That is when I saw the suitcases. The old ones from the closet. They were outside next to the door. Full. My things stuffed in roughly. Some folded, others just thrown in. My chest tightened. Mom! I yelled, knocking hard. Dad! On the other side, Diane's voice sounded cold. You are not welcome here. I froze. What? I said in disbelief. Are you telling me to leave? In this house we are not going to allow disrespect, she replied, as if reading from a rulebook. Seriously. My voice cracked. You are telling me to leave because I got upset that you spent my college money? Do not talk nonsense, she answered. You are 18 now. You are an adult. It is up to you to figure it out. I stood there looking at my suitcases, watching the cars go by, watching the neighbors continue with their lives as if nothing had happened. As if Diane and Richard had not just told me I was no longer welcome. And Maddie? I asked with a shattered heart. Would you do this to her? Silence. Not a single word. I took out my cell phone with shaking hands and called my Aunt Teresa, Diane's sister. She answered on the second ring. Rachel? What is wrong? You sound awful. I told her everything. The acceptance, Grandpa's money, the argument, the changed locks, the suitcases. The words came out between sobs. Stay right there, she said, with a firmness that held me together. Your Uncle Mark and I are coming for you. About an hour and a half later, their car parked in front of the house. It was late, and traffic on the highways was still heavy. Mark got out without saying much, grabbed my suitcases and put them in the trunk. Teresa hugged me tight. Forgive me, my girl, she whispered to me. This is not right. That night they gave me their guest room. I could not sleep. I felt as if something had been ripped away from me. And at the same time, for the first time, I felt like someone was on my side. Teresa and Mark came in later and sat with me. Mark took out his cell phone and showed me a receipt. We are going to support you with the money you need for school, Teresa said. It is not to show off. It is so you have a chance. It was a transfer of around $25,000. Enough to cover the difference the scholarship did not cover, and give me the initial push to get started. I broke down crying. I am going to pay you back, I said with a broken voice. Every dollar. I swear. Mark looked at me with that calm of people who have already seen many injustices in life. We know, he said, because we actually know who you are. And we know what you are capable of. Those 4 years were extremely tough and at the same time the most alive years of my life. I went to Austin with one suitcase on a budget flight, with fear clinging to my body but also with a hunger to succeed. I studied like crazy. I worked part-time in the university's administrative offices, helping with paperwork, cash registers, office tasks, whatever was available to cover rent, food, gas for the bus, the basics. Every semester I pushed myself harder. I did well. Not by magic. By staying up late. In the summers the first looked for internships. I learned to talk to clients, to read reports, to understand how money really moves. And every month I set aside something to pay Teresa and Mark back. Even if it was just a little. During those years, my cell phone never rang with a call from Diane, nor from Richard, nor from Maddie. Sometimes I wondered what they were doing, and then I would remember my suitcases on the sidewalk, and my nostalgia would fade. 2 months before graduating, I received a job offer at an investment firm in downtown Dallas. An entry-level position, but with a salary I had never imagined when I was serving coffee in my old neighborhood. The day I signed, I called Teresa. I did it, I told her. And my voice cracked, but this time from emotion. They want me there as soon as I graduate. Of course they want you, she replied, and you could hear the pride in her tone. You have always been brilliant, Rachel. I moved back to the Dallas area, and at first I lived in a tiny apartment, one of those where only the bed and a desk fit. But it was mine. No one could take it from me. No one could tell me to leave. I woke up early. I went to the gym when I could. And by 7:30 I was at my desk, coffee in hand, ready to face the day. At night I stayed late learning, asking questions, observing. My boss Elizabeth started noticing me. Once very late, while we were working on a major presentation for a client, she told me, "You bring something different to the table." I did not even turn around. I kept working on the computer. Like what? I asked, tired. Hunger, she replied. But the good kind. Not desperation. You are intense, yes, but you do not lose control. You are steadfast. And that is needed. 3 years later I was promoted. Then, a couple of years more, they gave me a position with more responsibility. My salary grew. Not by a magic strike. It grew with long hours, with pressure, with tough decisions. I moved to a nicer apartment with large windows and a city view. I bought myself a used car that still made me smile every time I saw it in the parking lot, as if it were not mine. Sometimes I would sit for a second with my hands on the steering wheel thinking, "You did it. You really did it." And one day, without making a fuss, I paid Teresa and Mark back to the last dollar. Teresa almost got upset. "We did not help you so you could pay us back," she said. "I know," I answered. "You helped me because you love me. But I am paying you back because I love you and because I keep my word." Over time I traveled. It was not all luxury or perfect photos, but I did treat myself to things I never even dreamed of before. A trip to New Orleans without counting every dollar, Charleston just for pleasure, Miami once for work, and even a trip to Paris for a conference where I walked around with my badge and my head held high. Posted photos, yes. Not to show off to them, but I did not hide either. I never blocked my family. Let them see if they wanted to. I was no longer going to live small so they could feel big. And then came that call. 12 years later. I could not get it out of my head that week. And by Friday I was driving through streets I recognized all too well. The same old route through the Dallas suburbs. Everything looked smaller. As if time had taken the weight off things. I parked in front of the house. My car looked out of place on that street. I adjusted my sunglasses in the mirror and took a deep breath. The house looked basically the same, but now I could see details I did not see before. Peeling paint, sagging gutters, signs of neglect. Diane opened the door before I even knocked. She had noticeable gray hair, new lines around her mouth, as if life had hardened her. "Rachel," she said, and lunged to hug me. I did not return the hug. I stepped aside. "Where is my dad?" I asked, walking in. The smell inside was the same as always. A scent of vanilla and coffee. "In the living room," Diane said, hurrying. "Today he feels better." I was not ready to see him. Richard, the man who seemed so large in my childhood, was shrunken in his armchair. Skinny. Pale. With his skin clinging to his bones. When he saw me, his eyes lit up in a way that hit me inside. It made me angry, and it also hurt to see him like that. "Rachel," he said with a weak voice, but still with that commanding tone that did not leave him even when sick. "You came." "I came," I answered, sitting across from him. "You look bad." He let out a laugh that turned into a cough. "Always direct," he said, catching his breath. "Yes, it is cancer. The doctors say months. Maybe less." Diane stood to the side, wringing her hands. "I got your room ready," she said quickly. "Everything is exactly as you left it." I almost laughed, but I could not. Nothing was the same. They had made sure of that 12 years ago. "And Maddie?" I asked. She went out, Diane answered too quickly. She is with friends. But she will be back for dinner. She is very excited to see you. I doubted it, but I did not say anything. We spent some time in uncomfortable small talk. They asked about my job, where I lived, about the car. I gave short, polite answers, watching out of the corner of my eye as they exchanged glances when they thought I was not noticing. In the afternoon, finally Maddie arrived. She walked in as if she were in her own magazine cover home. Designer dress, nice purse, perfect nails. She had gained some weight since the last time I saw her, but her face remained the same, pretty and with that confidence of someone who always lands on her feet. "Rachel!" she shrieked, as if we were best friends who had only stopped seeing each other for a weekend. "No way. You look wow. Hey, what about that watch? It is gorgeous." I looked her up and down. I remembered the little girl who broke my things and got away with it. And now there she was, 28 years old, just as used to the world bending over backwards for her. Dinner was strange. Diane cooked my childhood dishes as if food could erase 12 years of broken trust. There was stew, beans, and warm bread. Everything nice, everything homey. Richard barely ate. He just moved the food around with his fork. Maddie talked without stopping about friends, outings, plans to start a lifestyle blog, as if that were a formal career. At one point, Richard put his fork down on the plate. "Rachel," he said, "we need to talk about something important." Diane tensed up. Maddie looked down for a second. And something settled inside me. I was not just there to say goodbye. "What?" I asked, even though I already sensed it coming. Richard leaned forward a bit, looking serious. "I need you to promise me something. A dying man's wish." I did not answer. I just looked at him. "When I am gone," he continued, "I need to rest assured that Madison is going to be fine, that she will be taken care of, that she will be able to go on with her life. And you are in a position to make sure of that." The silence was heavy. You could hear the wall clock, the refrigerator, my own heart. "You are asking me what?" I said softly. Diane jumped in quickly. "To help your sister," she begged. "You are doing very well, Rachel. You have more than enough." I stood up. The chair scraped the floor. "Let me see if I understood," I said, my voice shaking with anger. "You called me after 12 years of not speaking to me to ask me to financially support my sister?" "Rachel, sit down," Diane pleaded. "Do not make a bigger deal out of this than it is." "A bigger deal?" I let out a dry laugh. "You told me to leave the house. You put my suitcases outside. You spent the money my grandfather left for my education. And now you want me to take charge of Maddie." Maddie pursed her lips like a scolded child. "It is not fair," she said, with that tone that had given me an allergy since we were little. "You have plenty of money and you do not share it. You have always been so selfish." I looked straight at her. "What have you done these 12 years, Maddie?" I asked. "While I worked long hours to build my career, what were you doing?" She got defensive. "Well, I was finding myself," she said. "Not all of us want to be tied to an office." "Finding yourself with our parents' money?" I replied, shaking my head. "And now that Dad is sick, you are worried about losing your support. Do not talk to your sister like that," Diane thundered. "You know she is sensitive. She does not need to be protected from reality." I raised my voice, but without profanity, with all the sharpness. "She needs to grow up. She needs to work. She needs to learn to support herself." Richard slammed his fist on the table, but he had no strength left. Even so, the gesture transported me back to my childhood. "Enough," he said, breathing heavily. "I am dying, Rachel. And the only thing I want is to leave knowing that my youngest daughter will be taken care of." I stared at him, and something broke inside me, but I did not budge. "And your oldest daughter?" I asked, this time slower, with a very quiet voice. "Did you ever want to take care of me?" No one answered. Not a single word. I grabbed my purse from the back of the chair. "I am leaving," I said. This was a mistake. "Rachel, wait." Diane stood up behind me. "Think about what you are doing. Think about your dad's last wish." I turned around in the doorway. "If you need help with medical expenses, with doctors, with whatever for my dad, I can help out," I said clearly. "But I will not financially support Maddie. Absolutely not." That is my final answer. I walked out. I walked to my car with cold hands. I heard Diane calling me. I heard Maddie doing her little crying act. I did not stop. I drove a few blocks, parked, took a trembling breath, and called Teresa. They asked me to financially support Maddie. I blurted out as soon as she answered. Can you believe it? Teresa sighed, as if something like that hurt her but did not surprise her. Oh, Rachel, she said. I was afraid it was because of that. Your sister has not worked a single day. And your parents have spoiled her all her life. The next 2 days were a parade of messages and calls. Diane and Maddie bombarded me with text messages. You are hurting your dad with your selfishness, Diane wrote. You were always jealous of me, Maddie put. You just want to punish me. I saved everything. I did not reply. Something told me not to delete anything. When Diane called again before answering, I set my cell phone to record. Rachel, she started without saying hello. How can you be so cold? So harsh? Your sister needs you. I am willing to help my dad, I replied as calmly as I could. But Maddie is an adult. She has to support herself. Diane's voice turned bitter. You do not compare to your sister. We never should have called you. I hung up. I stayed in my office looking at the city through the window, with a strange emptiness in my chest. And then I opened my computer and went to Diane's Facebook page. There it was. A large post talking about the ungrateful daughter, who refused to help her sick father. There were comments from family and acquaintances, people who knew nothing, saying what a disappointment, how is it possible that family comes first? I felt something inside me snap. 12 years of silence. And they still wanted to paint me as the bad guy. All right, I said quietly. If that is how you want to play it, that is how we play it. I wrote my own post. No insults. No profanity. Just the facts. I uploaded screenshots of the messages. I attached the audio of the call where Diane had said those things. I told everything. The favoritism since we were girls, the spent grandfather's money, how they told me to leave with my suitcases outside, and the real reason they reached out now, not to fix anything, but so I would support a perfectly capable adult woman. The response was immediate. The comments flooded in, but this time not against me. Against them. I remember how they treated Rachel, a cousin wrote. It was always obvious that they spoiled Maddie, a distant aunt put. People I had not seen for years sent me private messages. Some told me they had witnessed it, that they felt sorry, that they never knew how to help. Others shared their own stories of favoritism in their families. Diane tried to defend herself in the comments, but the more she explained, the deeper she sank. Not even her closest friends could justify asking one daughter to support the other as if it were an obligation. 6 months after that post, Teresa called me. Your dad passed away, she told me with a soft voice. I stayed silent. I felt a dull thud in my chest. When was the wake? When was the service? I asked even though I already figured it out. Teresa hesitated. They did not let you know, Rachel, she finally said. Diane decided that. I did not cry in that moment. I felt dry, as if I had already cried it all out years ago. I sent a large flower arrangement anyway, with a card that read, Goodbye, Dad. It has been 3 months since then. Through Teresa, I found out that Diane is struggling to keep the house running with what Richard left, that it is no longer enough for their previous lifestyle, that Maddie throws tantrums because she can no longer buy what she used to, nor go out to eat as if the money were endless. Sometimes I wonder if they learned anything, and then I remember who they are. Last week I got another call from an unknown number. This time I did not answer. It went to voicemail. It was Maddie, with a tearful voice, saying if I could help her just while she gets settled, just a little bit, just until she gets on her feet. I deleted the message without replying. Now I am sitting in my office, looking at the life I built with my own hands. And I feel peace. It hurts not having made peace with my dad, truly. It hurts that the goodbye was like that. But I do not regret having set a clear boundary. There are people who confuse having boundaries with being cruel. I learned a long time ago that it is not the same thing. I turned to look at the photo on my desk. There I am with my Aunt Teresa and my Uncle Mark on my last birthday. All three of us smiling, with that peace of mind that only feeling truly loved can give you. They are my family. The ones who held me when I was told to leave. The ones who believed in me. The ones who loved me unconditionally. They say blood carries weight. Maybe, but love carries more weight. And real love does not come with a bill or with threats. My cell phone vibrates. It is a message from Teresa. Are you still coming over for lunch on Sunday? I smile and reply quickly. Yes, I will be there. Some things burn down forever for a reason, and others over time become stronger. I have already learned to tell them apart. Comment. Hey everyone, this story really touched me deeply. I believe we all need to learn how to protect our own peace and self-respect. Setting healthy boundaries isn't selfish. It is an act of kindness toward ourselves. When we take responsibility for our happiness, real healing can begin. It's perfectly fine to choose peace, even if it means creating distance from those who hurt us. True family is the one that lifts us up, not the one that weighs us down. You deserve to build a life that feels safe and fulfilling. Never feel guilty for putting your well-being first. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.